Hey everybody, how you doing today? I hope that you're having a good day. I pray for your family. I hope that all is well with you and your household. My name is Valerie Johnson Hawkins. In case you don't know me, I know many of you do. Some know me as First Lady Valerie Hawkins, but I am also the owner of Honestly It's Life. And Honestly It's Life deals with real life issues. And somebody asked me, they said, "You talk about a lot of different things, but can you touch on depression or touch on grief?" And that's something that God had gave me a long time ago, and I battled with it because I battled with that myself. But I want to try to put it in this type of a format. We're going to deal with the monster, or what can we can consider can be a monster in our life that can come in and scare us to the point, or come in and inflict so much pain on us that we feel like we don't want to live, or we can't, because I don't know about if you've ever dealt with depression, but it can be debilitating. I mean, it can come in and oppress you. But let me not go into that right now. And then we want to talk about being victimized in the process of that. And then being victimized is saying that we are oppressed, that we're down, that we can't function correctly, that we can't articulate our thoughts correctly, our mind becomes convoluted and mixed up behind that great monster, or behind depression and so on and so forth that comes into our lives. And then we want to go into the hero, which you're the hero. You're going to find out in this video. Hopefully, I'm able to touch on some places in your heart, mind, body, and soul that will let you know that you can live and not die in this thing called life. And I know that we're facing different things, and our backs is up against the wall, because we as a nation, we as a people, this has no color barrier. Let me tell you something. What's going on now is no color barrier, and it's the same thing with depression. It's the same thing when it's the same thing with what I categorize as being, or can be, a monster in your life. And I just want to touch on some points. And I asked someone, I said, how would you characterize this? And how would you? They said, well, a few people said, well, if you look at depression as a monster, it can be scary. It's something that comes in and wants to just take over your life, or scare you to the point where you feel like you can't function. And another person said, well, it isolates you. Well, that's what it does. It does isolate you, and it makes you feel like you're not able to relate to other people, and other people can't relate to you. And then one person said, well, it can hurt you. A monster comes in to hurt you. And it does. It comes in to hurt you, and it hurts you, it hurts your self-esteem. It comes in, it wants to deprive you of just living and being ambitious and going out there and trying to strive in this life. So, but anyway, so let's deal with, let's go. I wrote down some things because I won't forget, because this is very, very important. How does it affect a person? How can it affect you? So I have here suffer to grief, to suffer grief, and go through grief. And those of you that have ever done with depression, or been to a point where things have been catastrophic in your life and you went into a depression, then you understand what I'm talking about. So let's go here. So here it says grief: to mourn, sorrow, to reap, to to weep, deep, deep mental suffering, to shed tears, to ache and distress mentally, or have a mentality of distress. Well, let me just share something with you. You're talking to a person that dealt with grief. You're talking to a person that dealt with heartache. You're talking to a person that was so devastated in their lives that they did not want to even know their name. And I use myself as an example, because when you use other people, they kind of get all tiffy about it. But I want to share some things with you about depression and about grief. And I want to start with the grief first, because that's how my onset came. And it came through my mother dying, it came through my father being murdered, it came through my biological father dying, and other family members dying back to back. It was like it was a domino effect in our lives. And not only did it come in to ruin an entire family, I'm just being honest with you. We never lived the same way again. We never related again the same way. We never talked the same way. We didn't. It's like we had different languages and we went our different ways. But it affected us. It impacted us. The grief impacted us to the point where we ourselves became lost within ourselves. I mean, we didn't know how to live after that. Our mother, she's a matriarch of the family, and she was a strong woman. So for her to just leave here instantaneous like that, even if it was something that was prolonged, it's very, very hard to deal with. I hope that someone can relate to me, because this is an issue that a lot of people cannot deal with. They have, we didn't look at birthdays the same, and we didn't look at holidays the same, and you begin the trip. I'm telling you, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and you never think about those things when it comes to your family members. And as a side note, if you have family here and you know that they're going through depression, let me tell you, sitting over there saying, well, they can talk to me, they can reach out, they know my phone number. I'm here to tell you, you're not thinking about nobody's phone number. You're not thinking about nobody reaching out. You're not thinking about any of those kind of things, but you want the help. You want somebody to go in and retrieve you. You need it. It's like you're grasping for air. And I don't even know if any of you guys have ever had to grasp for, like, oh my God, I can't breathe. You're going to a panic attack. But I'm telling you here today, as a person that is a survivor, that is a hero, and that's how you're going to become, talk about that hero that has came out of depression. It is so debilitating that you begin to become complacent in that thing. And the sorrow is so deep because it comes from within your heart. It's something like you just can't even put it into words. It's not a format for it. They can write a million books. I can probably talk about it from here to China. But the thing about it is, this sorrow is so wrapped with grief. If you can imagine, um, putting a doll in the middle of spaghetti and trying to pull that doll out, and pull that doll out without it being entangled, ah, and without it being wet, okay, and without it being touched or saturated, because even with pulling that doll out from around those noodles, let me tell you something, that doll has still been affected. That doll has been affected through heartache. That doll has been affected through pain. That doll has been affected. Um, it's misunderstood. It's like, wait, you could just come out everybody else. No, 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 no. You don't understand this, because this have affected me in such an area and a place in my life where my hope was, where I knew where love was, where comfort was, and it's no longer there. It's like somebody just yanked in there and said, you know, you're walking around here feeling empty. And so therefore there's a void, and that void is darkness, where the love is gone, because the sorrow has set in, and the grief has set in, and then you're shedding these tears. You can't even cry enough. It's just debilitating. It's just one thing after another. You're just like, what is it? You're even asking yourself, okay, you're trying to talk to yourself, but you're talking to yourself here, because now you know that people don't understand you, and you don't want to be around other people to bring them down. You don't want to do that, because everybody seems so happy, but you want to try to deal with whatever situation or whatever that you're going through. And when something impacts you, death impacts you, or a car accident, or losing your job, or you're losing your marriage, where you put everything into that woman, and you find out that she's out there messing around on you, or you find out that she doesn't love you, or she doesn't feel the same way about you, and even that man, and you put everything into your husband, and into your children, and you feel like, hey, this is it, this is going to be my life. And what happens is, you find out that things have turned, and he doesn't feel the same way about you, and something is missing, and and you're like, wait a minute, I'm lost in this thing, what has happened? And then you have that, it's because it's different ways to grieve. I'm just here to tell you. And you believe it or not, some people grieve over that job, because they become married to that job, and it's the only thing that they know, and it's repetition in their life, and it's something that's in their life, and they're used to having it, and they're being productive. And even if they're not being productive, they get up and they can do something. They can say that there's something about their life that, you know that they have something to look forward to. It's a word that I'm looking for, and I often talk about it in the things of God. We must have a oh, my mind just went to a blank, but I'll come back to that. Um, You know, a lot of people don't relate grief to that because they feel like if something is physically here and it's tangible, then how can they grieve behind it? But you can, especially if it's been taken away from you. You know, you can grieve behind just breaking up with a person in a relationship, you know, and you really care for that person and you're not with them anymore. That's not, I'm not talking about being married. I'm talking about a boyfriend and a girlfriend. I'm talking about even in that, you know, because a lot of people, they have common law where they're living together. And let me tell you something, a girl was with a guy, I think it was like 3 weeks, and he wasn't a person that kind of like wanted to settle down, but she had put everything into him, regardless of what anyone said. And she was like, "Oh, this is one, he's the one," so on and so forth. And he just wasn't there. And he was saying friends, and he was saying this, and she was like, "This is going to be it. He's everything I ever wanted. He's everything that I thought life should be." And when it came to him saying, "This is not, this is not what I want to do," you know, me and you were just friends. It was good to kick it. She like to lost her mind, and she began to go into some type of grief and bereavement. Everybody wanted her to get over it, but she had really opened herself up to him. But anyway, the word has came back to me, and I should have just said it. Oh wow, this is crazy. But anyway, so let me go down here. Grief causes distress. It causes along with the great sorrow, and you can break out at any given time. Let me tell you, I'm here to tell you that we could be watching television or something like that, and something will trigger that thing. Just a word will trigger that thing, and I could just go in, just close up, my whole demeanor changes, my countenance changes. I mean, I'd be like, ha ha ha, oh that's fine. Then something triggers me, and I go, and everybody's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Oh, nothing, nothing." But everybody can tell because my demeanor has changed, and my countenance has failed. And you're not trying to put that on anyone else, but you're trying to deal with that. And this is part of that monster. This is part that it comes in and invades you. It comes in and shuts you down, and you're kind of like, I just don't want to deal with it. You know, it comes in, and it's not so much fear. So let me just move that over to the side, because not everything is a monster that comes in a big sense, comes in and brings fear, but it is captivating. And I will say that about grief, it's something that I don't wish on my enemy. I don't wish on anyone, because this is something that stays with you daily. And once it has got a foothold in, it's like hell to get it out. I'm just here to tell you. I'm here to tell you, if you know someone that's dealing with grief, have patience with them. Know the signs. Know when they're looking away. Know when they countenance has changed. Know when the onset of depression is coming in. Know when they begin to try to isolate themselves and not want to really talk about something and change the subject. Oh, do you want to come out? Oh, no, no, no. It's okay. Everybody else go. And you know, that's when, well, let me get to that part, because I'm going to talk about how you can be a hero to them, okay, as well. Um, but you're saddened, it's upsetting, you know. I remember when people used to try to talk to me, and I'd get up, I'd take a shower, and you hear me say, "Go in there, take a shower, wash that thing." That's the only thing that mentally I can do, and I think I was so programmed into doing that that I just naturally did it. But I would get up from underneath the table, I'd go in there, wash that thing up, take a shower. I wouldn't even see myself in the mirror. I mean, I just literally dry off, put my clothes on, do whatever I had to do, come out of the bathroom, give me a pillow, give me a little blanket, and get back underneath that place, which I considered to be a safe place, as long as I wasn't messing up anyone in their life. Well, I put it like this: as long as I felt like I wasn't interfering with anyone, as long as I wasn't in their way, as long as they couldn't see me, I felt I could just be in my little corner with my little tablet, and I would just steadily right there. I could see myself in darkness. I could feel myself in darkness, and I came complacent in it. And I didn't want you and anybody else to come in and say anything to me. And at that time, I was validating it. You know, I was like, "Well, you never been through this," and my conversation would be subtle and short. because I did not want to go into why I felt the way that I felt. And it pushed a lot of people away from me. And that's what it's designed to do. So I'm telling you guys right now, if you know someone that's like that, grab hold of them. Still, I was, you know what? I'm gonna sit here anyway. And guess what? I had somebody do me like that. Thank God that God touched the hearts of men. So I want to read this to you. What it means to grieve. Grief is stronger, implying deep mentally suffering, often endured alone, in a silence but revealed aspect. To grieve over loss or death, a friend, a sister, a brother, and we know we're facing some stuff right now. We're going through some stuff right now that we've never had to deal with before, and it usually manifests itself outwardly with sorrow, and either or without sincerity, and of course, we know it is to mourn. But don't you know we can wear grief? I mean, in the Bible, it lets us know that when things would happen bad, that we would put on our sackcloth and ashes, and we would mourn, and we throw stuff over us. We'd throw the ashes over us, and we'd rip our clothes, and because we were in grief, we were in mourning, and we wanted people to know that. So, does it bring it into today's terms? We want you to know. We may not say it, but our actions speak louder than words. And I didn't even know I was going through depression. I had no idea that I was dealing with grief. It's just something that happened to me in my life. And then someone said, "Well, you're going through bereavement. You're going through a hard times." And for me, I had to understand, what are you talking about, bereavement? I'm learning about this grief thing. It says the action or condition of being in a period of mourning or loss, especially after a death or loved one. It's the same, but it's a little different. The bereavement comes after you're dealing with the grief, but the bereavement comes after. We use a widow had many visitors during her bereavement in a state of sense of grief. She was grieving after the loss of a loved one, and she was deprived, and the desolation of being having a force of loss in her life. And it also says here a deep sorrow of loss, a loved one or someone that dies. Okay, because I just want to back that up with that, because they parallel to each other. They sound just alike, but they're one and the same in a sense, but then again, it's not. And I just want to say this to you, that um, for me, people would want to talk to me, and people would want to come and say things to me, but it wasn't enough. And I needed something deeper. I needed something higher. I needed something that came out of the normal mindset. Hey, girl, come on, let's go to the party. Let's kick it. Hey, girl, come on, let's go get high. Let's go get drunk. And I'm just using that um, as an example, that's what people say. Or, hey, come on, let's go over a friend's house. Well, after a while, none of that happened, because I was still in that grieving period and going through bereavement, which I didn't understand. I was like, "Oh, I'm good," but everyone could see that I began to wear that thing, and it reminded me of a. I remember the word, purpose. We always have a purpose, and I said I was going to say it, but that's the word that I wanted to remember. Purpose. You have a purpose in your life. Okay, so let me just go back to where I was. So, anyway, I had to hurry up and say it before I forgot it. So we're dealing with this grief. We're talking about this sorrow, and we're talking about how people would want me to go do other things other than what I wanted to do, and I didn't realize that I was wearing that stuff like a jacket, a coat, a dress, a new face, hello, a new wig, a new weave, whatever. But I was wearing it, and I owned it. And I wanted people to leave me there, because I did not want my mind to have to go further than what it was thinking. I was comfortable. I had become comfortable with being depressed. I had become comfortable in my bereavement and in my grief. And I found out, as I become to the things of God, that God did not want that for me. That's not something that He sent His only begotten Son for. And again, I'm saying what worked for me as a person and as an individual. I found out that that God sent his only begotten son here because he cared for me, and that meant a lot to me. The drugs didn't mean a lot because I didn't do drugs, but the alcohol, boy, I could tell you some Long Islands. I could tell you about some mudslides. I can tell you about some white Zinfandel. I can tell you about being around people, Yukon Jack. I can tell you about all those type of things, but at the same time, I wasn't myself. And I was in situations and going around people that I would have normally not even been around. But I had a person say to me, "Oh, you was at the lowest of low." Well, whatever. If this is what it is, and I don't have to think about anything else other than being around people that don't know my life and didn't know nothing about my mother and my family, that didn't know nothing about me, um, my former years, and yeah, I was comfortable with it. Why? Because I could just deal with what they wanted me to deal with. I could just talk to them. I was brand new to them, so it was like, hey, it was like bad crabs in a bucket. I was just one that fell on them with them, and they accepted me where I was, and I didn't have to answer their questions. I was around people that didn't care. I mean, they just was like, yeah, they was like, hey, what's up? But they didn't care about what happened to me formerly. They didn't care about the person that I was, but I was becoming like them because I was in their environment and I wanted it to happen. Okay, so I just want to share that with you. I don't know if you can identify with that, but I hope that you can because um, it was a monster within itself. And a monster, it kills, steals, and destroys. And because I didn't have anyone that had my best interests at heart, or I had pushed them all away. I mean, you need somebody that's like, I don't care what you say. I'm gonna come over there. I'm gonna talk to you. I want to see how you're doing. Not only are you gonna get in that shower and clean yourself up, but you are going to get your hair done and you're gonna be feel better about yourself. So I kind of mix the victim because now I'm going into being the victim here. I was the victim. So it was easy for me to stay in that mess. The victim, Valerie Nichelle Johnson Hawkins, I was the victim. And it was easy for me to stay there. It was easy for me to stay there with grief on my left and bereavement on my right. And I mean, the funeral had been over. The people, they had been gone. And as being a victim, let me see how I would put that to another person. I felt like I felt like something happened to me that shouldn't have happened to me. I felt like I was the only person in the world that this was happening to, and no one understood it. And I was not only the victim, and I was victimized. And when I come to the things of God, I come to find out that the devil comes in to kill, steal, and destroy. And he was stealing everything he could from me. But I mean, he was taking everything. He was taking my hair comb, my brush. He was taking even my attitude I used to have. He took the joy. He didn't leave that. Now, that was one of the first things that he took. You know, he was taking me wanting to draw. I used to like to draw. I didn't want to listen to no. I used to like to listen to music. He took the. I'm talking about that joy. He took a self esteem. What self esteem? I didn't have none. You talk to somebody that I'm the victim now. So I'm just sitting up here saying, "Oh, how dare you? It only ever happened to me." And and I was wrapped up in that. I was just like that Barbie doll. I'll probably come on here later and show you about that Barbie doll and how that Barbie doll is in all those noodles and you have to pull her up out of it and how she's entangled in it. And let me tell you something. I didn't want nobody to break my little noodles off. Leave my noodles alone. I'm the victim there. Something happened to me, and I just was. I didn't even have want to make a decision about anything. I just was like, okay, if that's what you want to do, if that's how you want to do it, okay, that's fine. I mean, I didn't care about a bill. Here, take the money, take everything, take the car, take the keys, take everything. I'll just stay in the house. The house, not only the house, I was gonna make that house. But the Valerie, the victim, lives here, and you can't come in. And don't you know, I did find that place, and um a person can come in and uh, there's different ways that you can grieve. Again, you can come in and victimize a person, um, and you don't even realize that you're doing it. And well, I'll get to that in a moment because it's very important about being a victim. Um, And I was the victim. I was the number one victim, and I lived in depression for many, 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 many years. And I lived underneath a table. I lived within my mind. Um, Everything someone said to me, I was hurt by it. I was a big sore, So therefore, when someone said something to me, whether it was being something that was productive in my life, um, not what is it called? Not bad criticism, but productive criticism in my life, I took it as the worst thing in the world, and it was like I was a pancake on the floor. I'm here to tell you, and I didn't need you to come in and try to clean my wounds. I just put more of being a victim on top of my wounds. I put the hurt on top. I put the isolation on top. I put being deprived on top. I put my abandonment issues, and because it begins to unlock a lot of different things. Hey, this monster, he ain't playing with you. He's coming in. He said, "Now listen, I'm the monster. I'm the taskmaster. I'm the one that's gonna run your life. I'm the one that's gonna take over. I'm the one that tells you what to do and how to do." And you just say, "Okay." You be like in slavery. You be like, "All right, whatever it is you want to do, however it is you want to do it, just don't inflict no more pain on me. Don't come in with no more suffering." You just. I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm not. I'm serious. And your mind becomes conditioned to that. It's conditioned to that. And it takes another person. Okay, so I'm not going to get into the hero right now, but I want to talk about that victim. Listen, we don't care. We don't care about going out to the streets and living on the streets. What do you mean? I'm away from you. I'm away from everybody else that look like you, that's trying to talk to me, that doesn't understand, because it turns against. Because listen, we're now we've been victimized, so now we don't want to be victimized anymore. So then what we do is we turn on the person that we feel wants to inflict that pain, because they're talking to us and they mean well, and they're talking to us about something that is so hurt, so deep within. The pain is so deep within us, and we're hurt in that. And then you want to bring the subject up. Well, if you want to bring the subject up, I'm the victim now. I don't want to be around you. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to sit on TV. I don't want to be around you, your kids, anybody that look like you. I don't want to be around none of my peers that knew me. I don't want to deal with it. I want to be the victim. I'm going to listen to this taskmaster. I'm going to listen to this intrusive voice. I'm going to listen to them because they have my best interest at heart. I'm going to listen. And you know what? They're not going to say things to me that's going to hurt me. I'm telling you how this onset comes. I'm telling you what I know. I'm telling you that intrusive voices begin to come in. They begin to stroke us in there. Oh, and they be putting a fantasy in our minds. I'm here to tell you, don't act like nothing ain't never talked to you before through your heartache and your pain. I'm telling you, before I had a hold on God, who came in and said, "This one belongs to me," I was in something so deep. And I was around people that got tired of talking to me. I'm trying to give you guys an array of things that can happen to a person that is dealing with bereavement and dealing with grief. I'm telling you that when you go through bereavement and grief, that the enemy comes in. His job is to kill you off any way that he can. He's like a big monster. He's like a taskmaster to kill, steal. He wants to steal your hope, steal your dreams. Come on now. He don't want you to listen to music. He don't want you to have other people around. He wants you to stay isolated. He wants you to stay away from people. He wants you to feel helpless. He wants you to feel alone. He wants to tap into those things that as a child, as you were growing up, you had even forgotten about, that your parents or your cousins or something happened in school. He wants to bring all those things up to the forefront so you can be what? What's the word? Debilitated. I got it together. And you can rely on him. You can rely on the depression. And depression has many, 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 many different faces. And I wish I had like a prune. If you could ever look at a prune and you can see it as a prune, which is an old grape or old raisin, whatever, and the prune it's just sucked in. It has no life in it. and it has different rivets, and you have highs and you have lows, and you look in the rivet, it's so deep, and then all of a sudden it's like another mountain. I was looking at that prune, and the Lord spoke unto me and said, listen, this is how depression is. I'm like, whoa. Well, I don't even want to be like that. I want to stay. I want to stay in a place that I can maintain my life. I want to be happy. I want to have joy, but I don't understand how to have it. So now I'm talking about the hero. Now I'm telling how I began to speak back to God because God came in and I needed something. But in my depression, I kept saying, oh, it's got to be better than this. I was trying to fight my way out, but I did not know how because I was still taking every little thing to heart. I was still hurt because I was like one big sore because what I had went through in my life and what had traumatized me. And again, I'm telling you what happened to me as a person and as an individual. I hope that you can relate to this because there's somebody out there that's going to need you to relate to this. Let me just back up before I go deeper into the hero. I want to talk about how the enemy came in and how it felt to say, oh, and it came in like a warm blanket. You don't want to be here no more. Don't you want the pain to stop? Don't you just want to go to sleep? You don't want to have to talk to people. Now, all this is due to depression now, I'm telling you. All this on the onset of grief, all this is part of bereavement. Then suicidal ideation comes in because the enemy comes in with that thought. We're not born with that thought. When we're happy and we're joyous and we're having a good time, we're not even thinking about that crap. But when you go through grief and you go through bereavement and you go through suffering and you go through heartache and you want the stuff to stop and you're tired of weeping and you're tired of crying and you want the devastation to be over and you're so paranoid and you're so you're just like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And you don't want anything bad to happen to you. I'm telling you right now in the book 101 of the enemy that comes in to kill, steal, and destroy, 102 is listen, you know what? Let's convince this person that they don't need to be here. Let's convince this person that they're not loved. Let's convince this person that they're not wanted. Let's convince this person that nobody thinks about them. Let's convince this person that they're ugly to be around and nobody would ever want to accept them to being a part of them. Let's convince this person, that they shouldn't be here anymore. I'm telling you the truth. And somebody wanted me to talk about this today, and I'm sharing this with you because whether you want to admit it or not, if you've ever been depressed, if you've ever been with your back up against the wall and you didn't really have a hold on God, that spirit comes in. It's a spirit. And it wants you to say, listen, you don't need to be here no more. I'm your friend. It starts talking to you. And you don't know. So you're like, huh? Well, it must be my friend because it's stroking that pain. It's stroking that hurt. It's stroking that loneliness. It's stroking being abandoned. It says, listen, I'm with you in isolation. I'm with you in depression. Come on, somebody. You know what I'm talking about. And I was like, well, I ain't trying to do that. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to do that. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? Is this me talking to myself? And I'm here to tell you, if you know someone, again, let's go back to that monster. Let's go back how it begins. If something tragic happens to someone and they are going through devastation or have been devastated, if the onset of grief is going to come, and it's an onset, it comes in slowly. And I believe that I have here somewhere the different stages. And you can look it up on Google or whatever you go on to use, and it says the 5 stages of grief. One is denial. The first one is denial, of course, and I was in denial with a lot of stuff because I was trying to deal with it. I didn't want to deal with it, but I was just, in my own way trying to deal with it the way that I thought I should and the way that I was taught in the world. Then you get angry. Remember I told you I was angry. I was angry. I was upset. Okay? I was pissed. All right? Then you begin to bargain. Oh, no, it ain't like that. I can get through this. I got this. You begin to bargain. You begin to say to yourself, yeah, no, it ain't like this. Yeah, it's like that. Oh, and then you try to find a way to justify it. I'm trying to tell you I know what I'm talking about. Then here come depression. Because you realize this is real. This has happened. This is going on whether you want it to or not. This is what we're dealing with. And a lot of people are dealing with that today, with what's going on, not in your only your state, your town, or your country. This is going on in the world. And I just want to. And the last one is acceptance. Again, remember I told you I had to accept that to accept that pain. I have to accept that pain. I have to accept that hurt. Wait a minute. I have to accept that monster in my life because, of course, pain, the infliction of pain, hurts. And we get to the point where we accept it through the grief, through the anger, through the heartache, through the depression, through the oppression. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, this is crazy. And once you accept it, oh my God, it doesn't mean that it's over because you accepted it. Once you get to that stage, that's when it's really just begun. Because the acceptance brings up many different types of emotions. Like, what the heck? This is crazy. How am I going to live with this? How am I going to cope with this? I can't deal with this. This is crazy. Then people want to talk to you again. Another illustration. I don't want to talk about this. People want to say, "Hey, get high. Let's do this." I don't want to do that. I try to get a sound mind in this. Then people want to say, "Hey, we can go here and do this." And let me tell you something. That's good for a while. I know because I've done it. It's good for a while. But I found out that it doesn't last. That's a temporary fix. But the onset of this grief and depression and bereavement, it seems like it feels like it's down to my bones. And I just want the pain to stop. And that's when the enemy comes in and tricks us with that suicidal thought. And I'm here to tell you today, absolutely not. Because that's when you feel like you're worthless and you have no value and you've been abandoned and all the hurts and pains from the last 15, 20 years, 10 days, all the people that are against you, the bullies that were in your life, the disappointing marriages or the disappointing marriage or the disappointing relationship you had with a man or a woman, or your disappointment on your job, nobody accepted you, or somebody told you was weird, you were indifferent. The devil is a liar, and the truth is not in him. Again, the monster comes in to debilitate you. The taskmaster, the enemy, comes in to snag you and take your life, your essence, your joy away from you. He comes in to kill, steal, and destroy, in which that very thing that God has given unto you. And I want to tell you that we've dealt with all of this, and that your life is valued, and that you are worth many, 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 many. No money in the world could buy your life. And I pray that God brings somebody that won't give up the way that I had given up and came in and would fight for you. And what a lot of people don't understand about depression, it's a spiritual thing. It attacks the mind. It attacks the mind because we receive that pain in our heart, and then it comes in and infiltrates that mind, and we think in our heart, "Don't nobody love me." And I was just talking about this on Sunday on Prophetess Valerie Johnson Hawkins' page on Facebook. I was just talking about how that heart, when that heart is affected, how that pain is, and how we need that blood to flow, and how it needs to move throughout our body. And thank God for being God, and thank God for allowing his only begotten son to come here and comfort us, and he lets us know that he is a God that is acquainted with grief and sorrow, and we find that out as Jesus was on his way to Calvary. Again, I'm not here to push what I believe, but I'm just saying what worked for me, and I had to reach out, and I came to the realization through my grief, sorrow, and depression, and me saying, "Oh God, well maybe I don't want to live. I don't know," and I wasn't going to hurt myself. I didn't want to do that, but I didn't want to feel the pain. That's what I meant. So that's what it is. You don't want to die or anything like that, but you just don't want to feel the pain. You just don't want to feel the hurt. And so therefore I switched up on that enemy. I said, "Listen, hey, if you God, And you knew these things were going to happen because they said nothing ever happened without you knowing it. I was like laying underneath that table in depression. I had a clear day. My husband say it's a clear day land. I had a clear day. I said, well, if you God and you created this world that we live in, I want to land. I want to know from you, God, how I got myself in this position. And that's when I found out that there was a hero in my life. That's when I found out that I wasn't alone, that I wasn't abandoned, that God had always been there. Because once I turned to Him, I turned back to Him, not to friends, not to a man, not to the children, not to the alcohol, the drugs, not to my job looking for comfort. I turned into what created me. And I'm here to tell you, if you've dealt with depression, that you can turn to God and He will turn to you. He said, okay, Valerie, what's up? I said, well, this is a lot. And I want to be able to talk to you. I want to deal with this because nothing else is helping me. And now all of a sudden I feel like I maybe I'm worthless. Maybe I don't, I have no self-esteem. I have no money. I have nothing. I have nobody. Even the people that person love, husband love. I couldn't relate to that. I can relate to that love. I needed something to surpass that because one thing about the enemy, he has a good time. He does a very very good job at when a person comes to you, he begins to depict them. How can they tell you something when they cause hurt and pain in your life too? And you come back. Even if they have good intentions at this time. You go, wait a minute, you hurt me too. So what it was the enemy does, he triggers that pain. And so you push back from those people. And so I needed something that I knew that I could trust, that I could depend on, that I could was a go-to for me. And I heard about God. I knew there was a God. But I had also heard about a man named Jesus, and God said that this is His only begotten Son. Well, who is that? Because God, I'm trying to get to you. I'm not trying to deal with your son. Because for me, I'm like, I ain't trying to deal with Kevin, Kiana, Leo, Ilana, or Maurice. I'm trying to deal with. My mom used to say, "You don't stop at the halfway house. Go to the head." So I'm trying to deal with the head. So God says, but you can't come to me without going through my son. In other words, you cannot come to me without acknowledging him. You have to acknowledge him. That's my son. And I said that's my son. Who are you to say that he's not? Well, amen. Let me give way. Let me give way. Let me get myself back in the place where I'm supposed to do. Because I don't want to fall into the hands of an angry God. I had heard about that as well. So here comes my hero. I go and I say, okay, I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And I did. And that's what happened for me. And it was oh my God, it was a release. It was I saw it felt like a door open. I could see a door opening and somebody said, here I am. I'm like, what? You can come here in this darkness? Nobody could come here, but he could. And I just remember a voice saying to me, let this mind be in you that is also in Christ Jesus, and come out. And I began to walk out, and I'm saved, I'm sanctified, I'm baptized, I'm filled with the Holy Ghost. And for me, this is what worked for me. And um, again, I want to tell you about this testimony and tell you this story because someone asked me to talk about grief. And now I want to talk about the hero. I spent so much time on that. And the hero came and he said that this one belongs to me. And when I found out that somebody pushed past my shell that I had made of isolation, and somebody pushed past the depression and isolation and my abandonment issues, and somebody pushed past the tears and the heartache and the heartbreak and said, listen, I'm going to love you anyway. I'm going to love you regardless. And brought that little girl all the way up out them noodles. You understand? And when I came up out them noodles that I was in, it's almost like Jonah in the belly of the whale. Came out of that hell. I was in hell. And came out and said, listen, I don't care what you say. I'm going to love you in spite of yourself. You going to love me because I'm a wretch undone. And the enemy would kept coming trying to shower and tell me all this stuff. And that light came into that darkness with that love and compassion. And it just pulled me out slowly like a baby. said, I love you. And I'm going to explain to you what happened, how this happened. And I tell you, when God began to tell me about life and how we live and how we die and how we come and how we go, and I said, well, but it hurts. And it's part of growth and maturity in your life is not to be hidden away like a candle in the dark, but your light is to be shining bright. Light that candle so you can go tell somebody else what I did for you and how you came out. What? You mean somebody else would want to hear how I came out? But I'm not out. He said, but I'm going to bring you all the way out. I'm going to bring you out. And guess what? You will never look the same. You'll never be the same. The taskmaster doesn't have power over you. He doesn't have authority over you. That monster has to get back and go back to the pits of hell from which he came from. He don't have no place in your life. What? That depression, he has to go. And he said, Valerie, this is what I want to show you. He began to tell me what depression was. And he said, it is an entity. It is a person. If you can imagine a person and just seeing a silhouette, those are what spirits are. He said it's a spirit and it wants to come in and bring an onset with you. It wants to come and sit down and settle with you and stroke you in that pain and misery. But I've come so you can have life and have it more abundantly. I'm like, wait a minute, life? I didn't think I could live through that pain and that horror, sorrow. And he began to talk to me every day, and I began to talk to others. I started coming out, and they began to minister to me. They began to give me examples. They began to say, well, so how did you feel? I'm like, you really care? And I know it takes God to touch the hearts of man. And I thank God for having patience with me. And I thank God for being a hero in my life. And I thank God for allowing me to be a hero to someone else. And we just one hand beseech the other in the things of God. And even in life, one hand beseech the other. And you can go tell someone the story. You can go tell someone how he brought you out and what he did and how the taskmaster no longer has rule and authority over your life, and how you found out that in this life that these things are going to happen. Devastation is going to come. Heartache is going to come. Disappointment is going to come. Grief is going to come. Living in bereavement is going to come. Weeping is going to come. Sorrow is going to come. But you don't have to stay there. And when God spoke to me, he said, Valerie, let me share something with you. I want you to go out and I want you to tell people about this thing. And you can do it. I said, me? I couldn't possibly tell anyone about this. I said, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? He said, I'm going to give you a name. And he said, because honestly, it's life. What? Honestly, it's life? He said, this is what I want you to name the company that I'm going to give you. Honestly, it's life. And in this, if you touch one person, if you make a difference in one person's life, and they can put it in its right perspective and put it in its right place, then you have accomplished that goal in which I set out for you to do. So I pray as you read this, not read this, I'm sorry. I pray as you as you listen to this, that you yourself as a person, as an individual, would know that honestly, this is part of life. And we're going to go through some things. We're going to go through the sorrow, the heartache. But what about the joy that cometh in the morning, huh? What about the happiness that is accompanied with the joy? What about the things that God wants you to think on? Think on these things, that as long as you wake up on this side of contradiction, that you as a person and you as an individual have another chance at life. May God bless you all. May God bless you all. I love you. Remember, your life is worth it. You are wonderfully made. Everything that God made, he loved it. It was beautiful. And you have a life to live. Don't let the devil come in and trick you out of the life that you have. You have one life to live. Fight for it. Strive for it. Live for it. Be for it. Remember, get up in the morning. Wash that thing up. Speak over your life. And I love you. Peace out. May God bless you all. See you later.